Thanks for tuning in. We're Ace Comicals. I have with me my co-hosts Rahul Jani and Leon Everett. I'm Greg Driver. Let's get started. Hi guys, welcome to Ace Comicals episode 009. Xenomorphs abound in this Wascylewski sponsored edition of Ace Comicals. I have with me today the usual suspects, Leon and Ray is unusually good at the knife game. So today we've got two Aliens books to discuss. We've got Alien Salvation, which is Dave Gibbons and Mike Mignoaand, and then we've got the James Stucco self-produced, they did the whole thing, art right in the lot, Aliens Dead Orbit, which we only have the first issue of so far, issue 2, out May 31st, and I'm very excited about that because I love this guy. So, I guess we're going to start with Alien Salvation, which is the older of the two books. This book was originally published in 1993. And
well, I wasn't aware of that. Well,
yeah, it's that old. It doesn't feel that old though, does it?
No.
I think the cover betrays that because they've updated the cover for the new edition that we've all got.
Yeah, it doesn't actually feel that old though. It's to me it like when you're reading it, it feels like quite a modern story. It's basically the tale of as every alien tale starts, a tale of a space voyage gone wrong. So you've got this guy called Selkirk, who is a very pious cook on a ship, and this ship is carrying cargo, no questions asked cargo, which something goes wrong in the cargo hold, and the captain kind of loses his nerve and his marbles a little bit, kills the crew and takes Selkirk with him, and sets the ship, basically just leaves the ship and leaves everyone to kind of fend for themselves. They crash land on the planet below them, and it's basically this guy trying to keep his faith through his slow descent into madness. And the whole book is kind of from a flashback point of view, as far as I'm aware. As when I'm reading it, that's what it feels like. Like we're already at the end of the story, and he's telling it blow by blow when he's describing it, as if he's confessing his sins. So, what do you guys think of it? Well, let's get your guys' initial thoughts, shall we? You guys, see what you guys think.
Okay, I guess I'm going first. Right. I came out of this kind of lukewarm, I think. Like, okay, so the artwork is amazing. I actually genuinely like. I really like the art style of this. It's kind of angular, and the color palettes are really like. Each of the frames is individually really well defined in the color. But the story, I feel like it's something that's been done before. Maybe it is a sign of its age. Like I kind of feel the opposite as you do, Greg. I don't feel like it's a very modern story. I feel like it's a story we've heard 100 times before, but it does it in a perfectly serviceable way. Like it's a guy in a tough situation looking for salvation, as the title implies, and basically going through this gamut of trials, and then before finding his means of salvation, which we'll get to later.
Yeah, he has his faith tested, and
he constantly has his faith tested in various ways, and then it comes to a shocking head, and in very Aliens fashion, it ends very violently. And I guess, like overall, I think it's a really well-told small story, but it's a story I feel like I've seen before.
I mean, I kind of get where you're coming from, because the sci-fi elements of the story, the basic structure of the story, is something we've all seen before. It's very derivative in that way, in the fact that it's a mission gone wrong and we end up with somebody stranded. But what I like about it, what I find different, is the fact that this could almost be... You could strip this story back, take out the sci-fi elements, and it could be a sort of story of a guy shipwrecked somewhere. And like a a missionary shipwrecked somewhere, trying to keep his faith while he's been tested by, the wildlife of whatever island he's landed on or something, And I also like the Christianity spin on it, the fact that he's having his faith tested, and the fact that the way they've done, instead of him writing, like usually with these stories, it's someone updating a log or writing in a diary about how they're running out of water and things like that, and it feels very monotone when you've got the I guess the narration. But the narration in this is him confessing his sins and addressing God directly, which I think is a bit different, which is what makes me think what makes it feel fresh for me anyway. I don't know about you guys, but that is what makes it feel fresh for me.
That was one of the questions I was going to put to you guys, actually. The narration that we see in the square boxes, is that him talking to God, or is that him talking to us as the audience? Because he talks about how he's talking about it all in the past tense, and he mentions all the time, and at this point, so I prayed, or I begged for mercy, or I begged for salvation. That's not addressing God, that's addressing us.
Well, he says, right? I begged for salvation and you delivered.
Oh yeah, shut me up. Yeah, you're right.
So yeah, he's he's addressing God, and I guess in this instance, the way he's saying you are God when you're reading it, which it is kind of cool in a way as well. It's a little bit meta and a little bit
that's deep, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to reread this whole thing. Continue.
He's read it 3 times.
I have.
No, but yeah,
I'll jump in with a few of my thoughts.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, it's funny because reading it, I wasn't aware of how old it was. Did this predate Hellboy then? Because it's Hellboy mid-90s. Was it early as well? I mean, it's not that important, but like, it's a very I know, like, because it's a very different story to how he tells the Hellboy tales.
Hellboy was
just doing. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Hellboy was the same year, Leon.
Okay, because I know he's just doing the art for this, but he's doing the visual storytelling, and I know Gibbons wrote it. But like, it feels like it's his art style, but it feels very. I don't know. I like how it's done. It's just weird. It's one of those comics where I think if I had discovered it when I was younger, like in the mid-90s, I'd probably hold some like deep affection for it. But reading it now in 2017 eyes, where I've seen so many things, and as Rahul was saying, we've seen all these tropes and cliches before, nearly every single one. So it doesn't bring anything new to the table or anything. It doesn't do anything particularly interesting with those particular tropes. But what I do enjoy about it is, as said before, the art is amazing. But on top of that, I do think it reads quite nicely. Like you progress through the story in quite a cool way, because you have that framing device of him sort of speaking to God, but like from the future and informing
reflecting
us
on his actions.
Yeah, and we get to see step by step like how he's got in the position, because like the first page sort of fake covery thing is like him with a massive gun and like the shadow of an alien above him. So it's like you're wondering like, what? How did he get there? And I think the way it pulls you in is pretty good. But I'd compare it more to, say, it's dumb, but like if there was some sort of alien TV show, and then they decided to do a bottle episode on a bunch of characters that we've not met before.
Yeah, I can see that.
And this was like, just a contained episode. I could see it playing like that. Because while all the stuff with like all the cliches, I mean, the amount of times that salvation is actually bolded with emphasis is kind of like silly, but recontextualizing it to when it was written, it kind of makes more sense now. But like, I don't know, like, it's weird. Reading it at first, I was very sort of like, this is okay. But the more I've let it let it dwell a bit. I think, it's a very simple story that brings up a lot of tropes and brings a lot of hand-wavy, hey, this is an alien, and this is an alien thing, and this happens in Alien 2, and this has happened in Aliens. I kind of think it's a fun little aside, and it's interesting to have more sort of characters who are completely unrelated to the company, and just seeing how wide this web goes and how many lives it destroys and how many like plans that the company has to harvest and look after these weapons of mass destruction, and how different people are affected in different ways. And it kind of shows more versatility to the Alien franchise than we get in the movies, really, because the movies always, like, apart from the first two, which are obviously classics, the rest of the movies seem to be a remake or an attempted remake of one of the movies that have come before, and you get the same like beats and sequences that play out again and again, but not as good. So it's nice to sort of have a sort of castaway shipwreck story.
Yeah.
Of mostly one man, not just defending himself against the elements, but defending himself against a predator. It's nice.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's nice to get something that's quite different.
I like the WMD angle in the story, that the whole thing about them using the xenomorphs as weapons of mass destruction, and I like the way that all plays out and how cold it is. And
which is a trope of this series, I think.
Oh yeah,
which,
yeah, definitely.
Again, maybe I'm sticking to that too much. I do think it's really charming in how simple it is, and like you said, that coldness, like the cold, calculating actions of the company, is something that is part of the franchise, and you'd feel lost if it didn't have that there.
Well, exactly. It wouldn't be an Alien tale without that.
Yeah,
it wouldn't. It would. You have to.
But I think separate from that, what that I think maybe is a bit more original is dealing with. I mean, not to go into super details, plot details, but how the lead Selkirk, how he deals with nature, and how, like, it's not just a case where things are just, like, on this planet they're on, everything isn't just a monster, but like, he feels remorseful about actions, and I don't know, I think it creates quite an interesting, not really dichotomy, but quite an interesting look at how different characters perceive.
Well, he has a respect for life regardless of where it's from, or whether it's native to him, or whether it's human. And that's something you don't often see, because normally people react, in these films, people react with a gut instinct of hatred and horror to anything unnatural.
Yeah.
Whereas he takes everything with, like, he has to scavenge for food, and he has to hunt for their meals. And he does seem genuinely remorseful for the things that he has to do to achieve those goals.
Yeah, and it's not. It's not. I think this is what, like, if this was a standard Alien story, you wouldn't get that. It's because of the whole faith spin on it. The fact that he has this respect for life because of his faith, because he's a Christian, and the fact that he's not a soldier. He was just contracted as a cook. He's a civilian. He's not, he's not cut out for this, really, is he?
Well, there's an aspect later on which kind of flips that on its head, which I don't know if we want to talk about it now, or if we'll save for spoilers.
I think because it's such a short book, I don't think we need to have a spoiler section for it. I think we can just talk about it.
Well, with the revelation that Dean is actually an android, and he comes face to face with the cold calculations of the company, and deems her life, a quote unquote life, as, I don't know. I don't want to use the word lesser, but he does come to the conclusion that she's just a machine, and he holds little remorse for killing her off for her actions compared to the native animals of this planet that he's been crash landed on.
Maybe through his eyes, because she is man-made, she is an abomination against God.
Well, I guess not just man-made, but the fact that she was using him to be able to save her own life, so I suppose, or not just her life, but the the monetary value of the cargo that was crashing.
Yeah. Well, there's anger there.
I think that's my favorite aspect of this book is how interesting that revelation is.
Yeah, for me, it's how he justifies things. Like, he justifies doing these terrible things that he has to do to survive by, using his faith, basically, to justify it. So there's anger there when he finds out, and he obviously shoots her in hot-blooded rage that she used him, but he justifies it by saying, well, she wasn't a front against you, kind of thing, God. She wasn't, she's an abomination. She's not even real. She's a robot.
But there's also the aspect that she came to save him, like she saved his life.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Despite of the end goals or the, what the end justification is, she still had the power to find him and help him survive. And then he has to come face to face with what it took for her to do that and why she's doing it, and that, like, coming up with resolving that dissonance within him of wanting to survive, which is what he's been doing this entire book, and allowing the reasons for his survival to what's the word I'm looking for, to enable the machinations of the greater evil which he discovers more than the alien.
Yes.
He finds that the greater evil is the company that has put all this into place. And I find that really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it is, for me, it's the most interesting. Yeah, that is very interesting. But for me, the most interesting aspect is the way he uses his faith to justify things. The cannibalism as well. Because he has to, when they crash land, his captain has, the captain that takes him with him on the shuttle kind of takes him hostage almost and says, you come in with me. Kind of goes a little bit crazy from the pain of having been attacked by the cargo, which it turns out is the Xenomorphs. He's got acid burns and stuff, and he's crazy from pain. And he in some sort of delirium, he goes after Selkirk. Selkirk defends himself and kills the captain, and then obviously he's starving hungry because nothing on this planet is edible. It's all, the world that they're on is completely against them. Everything there is, none of it is. It's such different chemistry that it just
because they'd eaten that beast, hadn't they? And it was gross.
They ate a pterodactyl and they puked.
Which is very disappointing because you would have hoped pterodactyls were tasty.
Maybe Earth pterodactyls are.
Yeah. Not this random planet.
No, rancid
which
pterodactyl.
Which apparently only has pterodactyls and monkey-looking things.
Well,
and that's the only.
Do you know how I view it? I view it as like a primal version of Earth, a single landmass, apes, dinosaurs. I don't know.
Well, the reason they shipped the cargo, as in the Xenomorphs, to this planet is that it is uninhabitable. They couldn't terraform it. They mentioned that.
Yeah.
So you would hope that it. It's weird. Like, they deem these whatever life forms on this planet as not worth saving, and just dropping these WMDs onto it.
I think they just look at it as it's not advanced. It's just whatever, we can use this. They're not going to know what hit them, kind of thing. But
they just don't give a shit.
No, well, they don't. No, they don't. They're just calculating. But
well, I've got a few extra points I wanted to add. I really like because the whole thing of Selkirk and dealing with his faith and blah blah and to survive and / castaway. That we've seen that before, but it is rendered well here. But we have seen it before. But what I do really appreciate the stuff of, like, even just mild temptation. So obviously, what's her name? Sorry, what's the
Dean? Yeah.
Dean appears and saves his life, and then he has these, like, visions of, and it's like of them what appears to be having sex underwater, but like. he has these visions, and he has to like shake himself out of it and go back to being pious and thinking about their main plan being to get off the planet and survive. But I do like how you start to see like not just cracks, but you start to see him think about things in a different way and ponder what could be and what could have been, or ponder, in a different life this could have happened. And that's what I think makes the reveal of her being an android later more impactful on him.
Yeah, because he's almost hurt by that.
Yeah,
because that just completely screws up any fantasies he had, as well as the fact that she used him. And this is why I'm saying it's hot-blooded rage, but then he justifies it by saying, "But she wasn't even real," kind of thing. It's the same way that the point that I was getting onto before I went off on a wild tangent about how he ate his captain. He justified it as like, "Well, I was hungry, and I guess this is what I had to do," and you know.
And they have that great line later where they don't exchange it, but it's just like, she knows.
Yeah. She sees the flies and the dried meat hanging from his waistband, and she's like, "Oh, I get it," you know. And does it must strike him as strange that she didn't have to eat, and that she still had all that water left, having been stranded almost as long as him.
Well, there's some really interesting, like, subtle bits of foreshadowing, because even at the start where he's describing, because he's telling us the tale in hindsight, and he goes, "To me, it meant this job that he's taken means to him a freehold on some farm planet. What did it mean to the others? Foss, Stutz, Lee, Boyd, yes, and Dean." Like, separating her from the rest of the crew, because in his revelation he realizes that she's an android, and what does the job mean to her as opposed to the rest of the natural human crew. Like, there are some really clever bits of writing in this, which I really do appreciate.
It is very clever. So I guess we should wrap this one up and move on to conclusions before moving on to the next book. So before we do,
I just wanted to add, I guess it could have been a conclusion, but I just want to say, like, in typical Mignola style, I really, really like the sound effects and onomatopoeia in this. Like, they're usually, not usually, but a lot of the time, some of that stuff just gets in the way for me because the sounds don't feel natural, and I think it's just an issue I have because my interpretation of sounds into words is always different from other people's. So, like, a lot of the times when I'm reading comics, I'm like, drock? What the hell makes a drock noise? But I really like the ones in here where, like, there's two guns going off and it's like butter, 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 and bracka, 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 and it's like, yeah, I love that. It really sort of immerses you a bit more and makes things feel a bit more multi-sensor or so.
Yeah.
I
and
really
I like
appreciate that.
The artwork is it's like it's just enough detail. It's minimal, but it's not too minimal, and the block colouring.
Yeah.
It's
and everything's
great.
kind of I was going to say hidden in shadow.
Yeah. And I like Leon was saying, I like the onomatopoeia, the use of that, and I really like the way that the horror aspect of it, the way that he manages to, the way he draws, you know, especially with the nightmare sequence that happens in the book. Selkirk has this like horrible fever dream about all the horrible things he's done and had to do to survive so far at the point in the story that he has it. And we see all these like the way that he gets the grotesque horror stuff across, which I guess which is, you know, well, that's his bread and butter. He does it in Hellboy as well. But I just love the way that Mignola does that. The way he manages to draw these like grand, horrific, like, I don't know. I just love that. So
I do have written down here my favourite piece of onomatopoeia, which is towards the end where he's talking to Dean in the spaceship.
Yep.
And the xenomorphs are like crawling over the hull of the ship, and one just pops into the window shield and goes clonked. Yeah, that's my favourite sound effect in the whole thing.
Kind of thing, like a bird flying into glass or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, like you're driving down the motorway and something smacks your windshield. Clonked.
Anyway, yeah. So overall conclusions, I really enjoyed this book. It's a really nice, short, self-contained story. it's. I mean, obviously I'm at odds with the other two guys, but for me, it feels fresh and it feels modern. It feels more modern than it actually is, and I like the. For me, it just, I don't know, the religious side of things feels like a fresh spin on it. I mean, these guys have probably encountered that before, but I certainly haven't. I guess maybe I have, maybe I just can't remember. But for me, it just feels like a fresh spin on everything, and yeah, for a short little book that you can read in, I guess, an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes tops, if you're going to sit and appreciate each page and things like that. I think it's a great book, and I think it's a nice little thing to have on your shelf. Yeah. So Ray, what do you think in conclusion? Like, what's?
Yeah, I think I came off a bit strong at the start, right out the gates. I do agree.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting, short, well-told story. Even if it's things that I've seen before, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have a value. I think it never irritated me. Even though I was never rolling my eyes at the things that I felt like I'd seen before. It was just telling a story I'd seen before. It wasn't a frustratingly cliched read. I would recommend it.
Yeah, it's a standard Alien story, but it's not a standard Alien story at the same time, because there are little bits that have been twisted ever so slightly off center, and I think that's why it's not, oh, here we go again kind of thing, you know, because you still.
And that's why I think context is quite important, because now knowing when it came out, a lot of the things where I'm like, oh, that's a bit of a cliche, are mostly going to be things that I've consumed that were made after then. So I guess it's slightly unfair, but I mean, in my experience of reading it, I guess some of those things sort of felt that way, but I don't know, it's like, I'll say I'm not as cool on it as maybe Rahul, and not as hot on it as, say, you, Greg, but I would definitely recommend it. I think it's just well worth a read, and I think criticisms of it being like, well, this is an Alien retread again. If you're a big Alien fan or Aliens fan, you're probably going to welcome that instead. So I'll definitely say it's worth a read just for the art alone, at the very least.
That's very true. Yeah.
So on to the second book that we have to discuss today, which is Aliens Dead Orbit by James Stucco. Now, this book is currently being published. It's part 1 of 4. The first one that we got was in April, and this is like issue number 1 that I have in front of me now. We're getting issue 2 at the end of this month that I mentioned earlier in the podcast, and I think so far this is shaping up to be a good story. And I mean, I like James Stokoe anyway, because I've read some of his other stuff. I've read his Godzilla stuff, Half Century War, which is like one of my favourite comic books of all time, just because it's so bombastic, and I love his artwork for how detailed it is. And this is another guy, by the way, that can really do onomatopoeia. So I guess we dive in with this one, and let's get you guys' thoughts on it first, because obviously I love it like I love everything. But see what you guys think first. So, Ray, any initial thoughts?
Well, as ever, I'm pretty much on the polar opposite end of as you on this one.
No.
I think it's a really great contrast to Alien Salvation, because in the ways that Alien Salvation was kind of cliched, maybe less in hindsight, knowing the context of how old it is, but it's cliched in a non-frustrating way, in a way that felt natural and good storytelling. I feel like this is Alien Dead Orbit is cliched in a way that is very frustrating to read, in a way where it doesn't feel like there's a lot of weight to what's happening. Things just seem to occur, and the way the characters in this play talk to each other feel unnatural. They don't feel like they have much bearing on the things that are happening around them. And yeah, I felt very frustrated with this, and after having read it, I came to appreciate Alien Salvations a lot more, I think, especially because this one is so contemporary. Like, it's fairly new, right? It's
this year. It's just like
this year, yeah.
Just fresh off the press last month kind of thing. So,
setting that aside, I think the artwork is interesting. I think it's really detailed and really colorful, and I think it sets an interesting tone. But it's also very messy, and I think I like the backdrops of where they are more than the characters themselves. There's something that feels out of place by how unnatural each of the characters looks in it. They seem a bit too like unnatural and skewed and angular, and kind of like everyone's been punched in the face and then like their features haven't popped back out. I feel like every single character has that issue with them, and they're all kind of slanted off to the side. And everything else except for the characters I think is interesting. It's got this kind of used future, like dilapidated, shunted together look.
Yeah, I mean,
there's
it's what I like about this guy. I like the way I like lines, and I like so in any artwork I like lines. I like things to be very graphic, and I like things that are full of lines. But
see, this is why it's really good contrast to Salvation.
Yeah,
Salvation did a lot with a lot with very little, and I feel like Stokoe here is cramming in detail where he doesn't need to, and I think it, like, you're right. Half Century War?
Yeah,
the Godzilla book that you very kindly bought for me for my birthday, and I really did enjoy. I think it worked really well in that story. I think it worked well in that context, but here there's just something that's a little bit too cloying.
See, I like it. I like how claustrophobic it is. It really it gets across the claustrophobia of being stuck in space with the same 5 or 6 people for days on end. You get that feeling that it's not a nice place to be.
I just feel like it's slightly too cartoony for the setting, and maybe that's me not giving it enough time. Maybe if I read the next few issues and saw what tone this story is trying to set, but having come off it immediately after Salvation, and that having captured the tone of like this oppressive alien atmosphere, this one doesn't really grab me quite as strongly. For me, this actually does capture the claustrophobia of space and gets that across quite nicely. And I do rather enjoy the crust, like the way this guy draws crust, as I like to call it, crust. But yeah, like crumbling bits of like old technology and rust and just jagged edges and cracked windscreens and things like that. This guy is like, I think there's a lot of detail to pore over, and that's really interesting. Like, again, the backdrops are kind of cool. They're really visually busy, which isn't inherently a bad thing. It just changes. I think the characters look really cartoony compared to the setting I feel like they should be in. But that's not to say the art is bad. I just feel like the tone is slightly off.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to completely disagree with you and say that it gets the tone like dead on. But it's I think that's Stuccoe's style. That's just
it is. It does.
Yeah.
All of his stuff kind of looks like this, I think.
All of his stuff has this this very graphic, very like rusty future kind of junkyard thing about it. That's what I enjoy. I like it. I think it feels a bit punk.
Yeah.
And I think that's
and you do like your punk.
Yes. I like the I like the way that he draws this this kind of like used future tech and this industrial kind of environments and things like that. And the story so far in this book, I think it is setting up and it is setting the tone. It's like, obviously it's again it's cliches, as with Salvation, guys on night watch, other crews sleeping, they stumble across like an abandoned ship in the middle of nowhere, and it's like the ghost ships. It's the ghost ship trope, basically. Oh, look, let's check it out. That's always a good idea. It always ends well, right? So they're going to go check out this like ghost ship, like floating in the middle of nowhere, and they're getting readings from it, so they know there's crew on there, and they know that they're in sort of like cryo sleep type thing. So they're going to go on there and investigate and see what happened, because it looks in a bad way, this ship as well. It looks old. And there's like little bits in this when they're exploring that I quite like the way he uses when Wascylewski says calls the what's it calls Rook. He calls him St. Anthony, like the patron saint of sailors, which is, I think, it's quite nice. It's like all these old nautical terms again coming out, which I do enjoy about these books, that they use, that they keep it. This could be a story. You could strip it back, and it could be, like a Spanish galleon coming across an abandoned ship. This could be the Mary Celeste, but with some kind of like crazy murderous beast on board, kind of thing, And I like the I just like the setup, and I like the way this issue ends, especially. Oh yeah,
the money shot at the end is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
I like the way that his eyes play tricks on him when he thinks he can see the alien, but he's actually just looking at like a piece of junk lodged in the
a really ironically aligned piece of pipework. Yeah. That's one of the cliches that I kind of roll my eyes at. Like it's interesting and it's funny, and it was more just like. But
that is what the alien is adapted to.
But it's a little bit too. It just feels a bit too comical and too lighter-hearted and not oppressive enough.
Well, even the boiled survivor scene.
Yeah, even that. Like they come out piping red hot, looking with their eyes all bulging and stuff, and it feels a little bit anime-ish more than gritty, dark, alien oppressive-ness. And maybe that's just down to taste. I do.
It's funny you say that. Because that's one thing I would have said with the art. Because, initially reading it, the character, their faces, like you say, it's all very sort of like using a wide-angle lens, and you're at an angle as well. So everything's kind of distorted in a way. But then I grew to, it didn't bug me as much as we went on, because it started to remind me of... certain manga from the 80s and the 90s, which I quite liked, and how different everyone's uniform is slightly different and stylized, and how everyone's got this weird sort of unique look about them. It did start to endear itself to me. But yeah, I kind of know where you're coming from, in terms of it being cartoony. But I'll say again, second comic in a row. I'm probably in the middle of you guys again, but I'm not on any fence. But I'm in the middle of you guys,
sitting on the barbed wire fence. Rahul's ready to plug it in.
Because I was just saying, I think the biggest strength of the art in this is definitely all the backgrounds. The detail is immense. It makes sense that they chose Jeff Darrow to do the main cover, because he's another guy who has intensely detailed artwork. I mean, the Wachowskis used him as their concept designer for the Matrix films. So it makes sense that it's almost like a passing of the baton, because inside the actual book, the level of detail is great, and I kind of like it being a shift, because I haven't read anything in a while that kind of looks like this. So it's funny that my initial sort of I don't know about this. I know I think I got lulled in, and I started to enjoy the art and abandoned ship, that. Those are cliches that I don't mind as much. And then it started to feel, which is really odd, but it started to feel like I was reading a comic from the 90s in good and bad ways. Whereas with Salvation, I didn't know that was from the 90s. I thought it was from now. So it's funny having those be switched like that in my mind. But where this was gaining me with the art and the atmosphere to a degree. Because I love when they find those cryo tanks. I love the idea of it. It started to lose me towards the end with the story, and say his eyes playing tricks on him. That just seemed silly, because it's fully for the audience and not for the characters. And then that the alien being there. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard reviewing like
a single issue,
one issue.
But why is it silly that that's for the audience?
Well, it's weird because he doesn't know that. I mean, unless he does know that such a thing as a xenomorph exists, and he knows what it looks like, and he's picturing that through that crack in the wall. Like, why does that freak him out? Why does he see what we know to be a xenomorph, which then turns out to be a bunch of pipes? Like, it just...
This might not be his first rodeo. That might get revealed in issues 2, 3, and 4.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. But without that knowledge, it is hard. And that's why I think it's hard, because, again, it's Leon doing the comic TV metaphor, but it feels like I'm unfairly reviewing shortcomings while only having watched 10 minutes or the cold open of a TV show. Like, before the next ad break, it could fully explain some of the things that I find annoying about it. So, like, I'm not really a big fan of how the alien appears. I mean, I think the artwork on those final panels are amazing, but it just kind of feels silly. It's like, oh, the pack, and then suddenly, Xenomorph, and it's like, I don't know, like, it felt like very like we need, like, it is for this reason, but it felt like we need the hook, so let's drop the hook in. And I kind of wish there was more of a slow build with it, but I guess that's just my sensibility running up against the sensibilities of the storytelling of the first issue of the book.
What I think is unique about this book, which appeals to me, always appeals to me, is when it's one guy. So it's James Stucco has done the art, the inking, and the writing, and he's doing all of it in this book. Oh, you got you mentioned the Jeff Darrow cover? Have you got the Jeff Darrow cover then? Because that's a variant.
Is that a variant?
Yeah.
Which one is that? Because
I thought the Jeff Darrow one was the original, like the one where it's in space and the Xenomorph side on.
No, that's Stucco.
Yeah, that's the cover I've got.
Yeah, that's the main cover. Stucco did the whole thing, start to finish. It's like a Weapon X affair, where it's the same artist.
There's a variant cover where the Xenomorph's like scaling a cliff, having impaled some weird machinery on his tail.
Because there's a Jeff Darrow cover and there's a Raphael Albuquerque cover.
Okay, I've been confused then. Which one is the Albuquerque cover?
I've not
I think
I've not
that's
seen
the one where
Albuquerque
it's
cover.
like a sketchy picture of a guy in a spacesuit looking down at a fetal position alien at the bottom.
Yeah, this is the main cover. It's the one with the astronaut, which is Wascylewski, and the alien sort of side on crumbling away, and that's Stokoe, sorry, get his name right.
The purpley looking one.
Yeah, that's the main cover.
That's pretty cool then.
Yeah.
I do like that cover.
Yeah.
I like Stokoe's artwork. I'm a big advocate of crust, so. But yeah, no.
No, I was just gonna say, like, again, it's a cool concept, but I'm just not sure. Like, again, it's another one where I'm here for the art, but I'm not sure how I feel on the story yet, because it kind of feels like, I don't know, pacing or something. Like, we're getting stuff that feels sort of unearned really early, and I know you got to do it because it's the first issue, but just other stuff that I'm used to sort of reading, and I don't know, I kind of want the dread to build, but for all I know, issues 2, 3, and 4, and like the first trade when it's complete, could be like full dread and wind back the mystery. But it just feels crazy. Like, okay, we found this, Dunna, Xenomorph, and it's like, I know it's meant to be like, whoa, but for me, it's just a case of like I'm exhausted already. Like, lure me into this world a bit more.
I did think that final shot of the Xenomorph, I thought that was partway through the book. I thought that was, you know how sometimes you get a splash page halfway through or 3/4 of the way through the story, and there would be a conclusion, but it's like the da-da, and then it ends. And I was left really disappointed by that, I think.
I was left...
I said earlier, I do think I'd need to read a couple more before I make my mind up fully on it.
Well, obviously, yeah, because it's just issue 1, but I enjoyed issue 1, and I'm down for issue 2, and I do want the rest of it, because, yeah.
I think if this is a decent metric, I think I've read issue 1s of a comic that I don't know anything else about that have got me excited for issue 2 in a genuine, like, I want to know what happens next. Whereas this one makes me feel I want to read issue 2 to see if it improves.
Well, I want to read issue 2 to know what happens next for sure. And I want to read issue 2 to see more of this artwork. I mean, I'm very, very interested to, like, cause despite my concerns with the story and like how it just drops those things in our lap in a way that doesn't feel right for me, I'm still tempted to continue and at least read the whole of the first trade when that's complete. Yeah.
Just because I really do like the art, especially like the environments. Like, I'm interested to see what they do with it. Or what he does with it, I should say.
Everything this guy draws just seems so complete. I don't know what it is about that. I think it's the same reason. I like this for the same reason that I like Eastman and Laird, like the early Turtles artwork. Because it's just I like the lines and I like
a lot going on.
And this would look great in black and white. It would. I think
it would, but I really appreciate the use of colour in this.
Yeah, the colouring is great in this. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I do think Half Century War is a really good recommendation off the back of this, because I think it has the same like intricate and interesting art style, but with a story that I really enjoyed as well. Yeah,
Half Century War is. I mean, this has got this feels like it hits the same notes as Half Century War story wise, or like it's going to, because it's going to be that kind of B-movie-esque action
kind of
fest.
schlocky action.
Yeah, which is what I want. I quite like that. I mean, obviously it's not a standard Alien story, but it's what I want. It's what I like.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that kind of poppy B movie. I like comics that don't pull punches. I mean, I like it when punches are pulled and they're pulled properly, and you get the dread build up like Leon has mentioned. But I like it when they don't pull punches and it's something that I can just kick back and enjoy without thinking too hard about it.
One thing I actually dislike, though, like despite any other misgivings I've heard earlier, I kind of don't like how the speech bubbles all link together with like the snaky sort of connections between each bubbles. For some reason, it just takes me out of the art every time. It's such a nitpick, but it takes me out.
I think it works its way in pretty well, because then it's like who's. I don't know. For me, it all fits together nicely. So I'm completely at odds with you guys on this one, but yeah.
I kind of agree. I think it kind of makes up for a lack of consideration on like the framing a little bit. But again, that is super nitpicky, and we'll have to see where that goes.
Yeah. So conclusions on this one. Again, I like it. I'd recommend it. It's it's a nice again, the nice beginning to an Alien story, and I'm excited to see where it takes us. So I will be buying the other issues and I will be following it, and hopefully by the time we've had issue 4 and we've got the full story, I'll be able to give you guys more of a complete review when I talk about issue 4, and I can talk about the whole thing as a whole and how wonderful it is. You guys got any thoughts, any conclusions on this one that you want anything you want to air, any more savaging you want to get done?
I would say I'd really recommend picking up Half Century War, because at least that's a complete thing. Wait until the first trade of this is out and then pick it up at the end, because that's what I'm going to do. I don't think I'm going to be buying any more issues. I think I'll wait until the trade's out and I'll read it then.
Both of these are probably good things to pick up in the run-up to the new Aliens film.
That's a very good point.
Say. Yes.
Yeah.
Because we've got a new Aliens film coming out, Covenant, which, again, I seem to be the only person that's unashamedly excited about this. Everybody else is like sort of reserving judgment.
Reserving judgment is the exact right phrase. I'm not getting too excited. I've been disappointed before.
So I've
been hurt before, Greg.
I like to throw myself at things.
All the sharp, jagged things that Stucco puts in his artwork, just launch yourself onto it.
Jump off a cliff into a pile of his junk.
Man, you really like Stucco, don't you?
Not in that way. God. That came out wrong.
Every episode we've done, you've made some sort of slip up. Yeah, wonderful. We'll write him a letter. I'm sure Stucco will love it.
I don't mean it like that. I mean, like, because the way he draws junk and crust. God, you two, get your minds out of the gutter, damn it.
Hey, he draws gutters so well.
So,
I will say in conclusion for me, like, I don't know, it's hard because I'm not as down on it, I would say, as Rahul is. I don't even think Rahul is as down as it may appear overtly. Yeah. But like, it's just because there were negatives to bring up, and we brought up the negatives. But I don't dislike it, and I don't think you're crazy for liking it. Like, I just don't have strong feelings on it yet. But I'm in the same boat. Like, I don't want to read week by week. I want that first trade to be complete, and I want you to be bouncing off the walls about it, Greg. And then I will revisit this, and I think it will read better as a collection, or, as like a. It might not be a full arc, but I think it will read better with this bit sewn off, because, like I'm saying earlier, just watching the first 10 minutes of a pilot, you don't really get a good overview, and there's things that you've alluded to that that I was bringing up as nitpicks that seem like they're slightly addressed. So, like, it's weird because I went into this comic disliking it more than I dislike it now, because like I was saying, the artwork and some of the other stuff is just, I don't know, it wasn't working for me, the characters to begin with. But I don't know, just the heavily detailed worlds, and then thinking back to some of those sort of early, or let's say mid-90s manga with really, really, really good sort of strong pencil work as well. It gave me an appreciation for it. So once that trades out, I will be jumping back as well.
It's got that Akira-iness about it.
It does a little bit.
Does, it reminded me of Akira.
Which is always nice to see. And this man wears his influences on his sleeves, and we like it. So, I guess that about wraps it up. That's been Ace Comicals. You can find us on at www.acecomicals.com. You can find us on Twitter at Ace Comicals. You can find us on Facebook under Ace Comicals. You can now find us on Instagram if you search for Ace Comicals, where it will be pretty pictures of comics and obviously touting the podcast, because that's what we do. You can find us on WordPress, acecomicals.wordpress.com. You can find us on iTunes under Ace Comicals. You can find us on your favourite podcast app under Ace Comicals. We like Pocket Cast because we know we can be found there, but obviously whatever podcast app you use, I'm sure you'll be able to find us. You can find us... you can find me on Twitter at Battou, Battou. If you want to field any questions, you can field them to me on Twitter, or you can get in touch via the Ace Comicals email address, which is acecomicals@gmail.com. We want your questions. We need questions to answer. We so need questions to answer. And where can we find you guys? Where can we find you, Ray?
Yeah, at Twitter, so that's at Monkeh, which is MOONKEH.
And Leon?
Twitter as well, at Leon Efrat.
Yeah, so if you want to field any questions to these guys, you can get in touch with them through the Ace Comicals channels as well. I'm sure they'll be able to answer your questions there. Or, field questions to the podcast, guys. Come on, ask us something. Ask us something silly. Ask us something ridiculous. We'll answer it. Yeah, so that's been Ace Comicals. Ace Comicals, over and out.